Okay, check one, check one. Can you hear me now? All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another live stream. If you're catching this on the replay, thanks for joining me. It's going to be a super casual stream today. Today, we're just going to be doing a little bit of jamming. We're going to be exploring some presets in the Arturia MiniFreak, and we're maybe going to be doing a little bit of really casual live looping with the Roland RC505 MKII Live Looper this morning. Hey, we got Big John UK in the chat. Can you hear me okay? Is my voice coming through okay? It's going to be a super casual stream today. I'm just going to do a little bit of jamming while some people are hopefully joining up to the stream, and then we will start hanging out and checking out some presets from the Arturia MiniFreak today. I'm going to go ahead and get this jam going, so we're going to get some volume happening in just a second. If you can just let me know if you can hear me okay and you can hear this music okay, and hopefully we're not distorting anybody's speakers or phones today. Hey, good morning, Oswald. Greetings from the UK. All right, good deal. Voice is fine. All right. Can you guys hear that music okay then? Hey, what's happening? We got Tessie in the chat. All right, thanks for tuning in. It's going to be a super casual stream today. Just having some fun today. It's been a while since I've done a live stream like this, and I thought it about time to go ahead and do another one. So what you're hearing right now is just kind of like a breakbeat jam that I've put together by remixing the last live jam that I put together here. If we listen carefully, we're hearing kind of a strange noisy wash in the background right now, and it's kind of evolving and filtering out just a little bit. What's creating that texture in the background is one of my Eurorack modules here. I'm using, for reverb in this patch, I'm using the Desmodus Versio reverb from Noise Engineering, and it has a lot of CV patch points, so I can slowly automate per se the different controls on that and make it more dry or more wet or more tone to the reverb or darken the reverb up over time. So as the jam kind of plays out, the reverb is always just sort of evolving a little bit in the background. Okay, so let me show you the individual elements that we've got to work with in this jam. Let me just turn most everything off here and turn this off here. Okay, so I started out with a like a minimal techno hard live jam that I did like last weekend. It was like 152 beats per minute, and I used this Eurorack setup over here to make that happen. And when it was over, I had another synthesizer over here as well, so I could add some sounds from the Virus Darkstar into that jam. So when that, jam was over, rather than break all of this stuff down and unpatch everything, I decided to go ahead and try to repurpose this jam. I usually patch everything from scratch when I'm creating, and so I'm going to sort of just give you a little bit of a bird's eye view here of the setup and the amount of cables that are involved. So like to unpatch that up and, to restart something from scratch is quite a bit of work. So what I did was, instead of creating something all new from scratch, is I just decided to lower the tempo from 152 BPM down to 128 beats per minute, and then change out the gear that was sitting on the table here. So instead of the Virus Darkstar synthesizer, I've added the Yamaha SU700 vintage Groovebox and sampler so that I could add some break beats to this jam. Excuse me. And I've added the Roland SP505 loop station, which is currently on loan from Zounds. So big ups to Zounds.com for the temporary loan of the SP505. I've been trying to get to grips with this, and that's one of the things we're going to be working with and talking about today. I've been having some technical issues, and maybe someone in the chat or maybe somebody watching this video at a future date can maybe, answer some of those questions if they've had some similar experience. Underneath the 505, I've got the Arturia MiniFreak synthesizer, and we're just going to be playing through some of the factory presets today on the MiniFreak and seeing if we can get some melodic elements to add to this sort of live jam that I've got put together here to go with sort of like the break beat that I'm putting together here. So, hey Ed, what's happening? Thanks for tuning in. All right, so these are just the factory presets in the MiniFreak. I haven't had it for that long. I certainly haven't had time to get in there and program a whole bunch of my own sounds. So this session today is just kind of like a fun jamming session. I'm gonna be exploring more the SP505 and sort of talking about my learning process with the 505. Let's go ahead and see if we can get a melodic element to match over the top of this jam right off. Let's just go ahead and do that. Off camera here, actually, yeah, let me show you that. Off camera here, I'm got the whole jam, the whole setup being clocked rather by the ERM multi-clock. So when I press play over here on the multi-clock, it's sending out a MIDI clock to all of the devices. Okay, it's sending an individual MIDI clock to the MiniFreak, so that stays in time with everything. It's sending its individual MIDI out into the Roland 505, it's sending a MIDI out into the Yamaha SU700, and lastly, I'm running a MIDI out all the way over here into the Erica Synths Black sequencer. And then when this starts up, it gets the entire, Eurorack set up in time with everything else on the table. So this is really the heart of everything today, the ERM multi-clock. Without it, I really just can't get every single thing to be in really tight sync here. Okay. So I think that's important to note, because one of the things that I had issues with on the SP505 was just that, was getting it in sync with the rest of the gear. And I found that if I was just using like a MIDI out into say like a quadra through or something like that, and then, putting that into the 505, that the MIDI clock was getting off like all the time, no matter what I was using as the master clock. And I've found that the only way to keep the 505 in perfect time with the rest of this gear is to use this external clock that is indeed clocking everything. So there's no MIDI hubs, and there's no extra latency from a MIDI going through a hub or anything like that. Okay, so let me go ahead and start this up, and let's just see if we can really casually find one of these factory presets in the Arturia MiniFreak to go over the melodic elements of this jam. Not going to be that first one, but I really like being able to add a pad in the background, so let's go ahead and give that a go. Now I want to show you guys right off the jump, sorry about the reverb in the background, that'll just sort of trail out and fade out as we're working today, but one of the things, actually I can mute that here. One of the things that I've been having some difficulty with in the 505 is just getting it to do basic looping in time with everything else. What I'm really after is just the most basic functions of a looper. All I want to do is I just want to tap a button, and on the downbeat of the next measure, I want the looper to start recording. I want it to record for exactly 8 bars, and then I want it to stop recording and start playing back what I've just recorded until I tell it otherwise. Seems pretty simple, right? I'm not trying to get any effects or anything like that at this time. I'm just trying to get the looper to be in sync with everything else. It's giving me some strange anomalies in that track 1 really doesn't seem to want to adhere to the grid, and it doesn't really seem to want to give me an 8-bar loop, even though I've got all 5 tracks inside of the 505 set to do an exactly 8-bar loop and then turn off. So we're going to try this on track 1. If it doesn't exactly loop very well, then I'm going to skip using track 1 for now, and we'll start using track 2, 3, 4, or 5. Now that's a strange anomaly, so if any one of you have experienced anything like that, you know, with your 505, please let me know down in the comments how you dealt with that, or if you dealt with that. All right. So here we've just got a really, you know, let's see here. Oh, I muted that track, right? Okay. So I'm just going to wait for the crash symbol to come in because that's our downbeat, right? We're going to do a count here. Okay. So I'm waiting for the crash symbol to come in. Here it comes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. Count with me. 3, 3, 4, and 4. 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 6, 2, 3, 4, 7, 2, 3, 4, 8. Let's trigger that loop. Now it's recording. 2, 3, 4, and 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 6, 2, 3, 4, 7, 2, 3, 4, 8, 2. It's okay. It's already looped back around again, see? It didn't wait for that full count. We counted it out real clean, right? Okay, so I'm gonna clear this out. And I really want to get this on film so that I can either show Roland and try to figure out what's going on with my unit, or maybe somebody in the chat knows what's going on with the unit. Now, what I want to do before we try that again is I want to do that exact same thing, but on track 2 this time. And we'll see that track 2 almost always sticks to that 8-bar process. I'm just going to start the count now when I hit 1. We're just going to count this out, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 2, 3, and 8. Hit that loop and go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, and 5, 2, 3, 4, 6, 2, 3, 4, 7, 2, 3, 4, 8, 2, 3. Nope. It's done it again, see? It hasn't waited that full 8 bars. Now, to somebody watching, your first instinct might be to say, well, Dean, you probably just don't have it set up inside of the unit, you know, to stick to that 8 bars. but I actually do is the thing. And if I go into, I probably can't show with the camera because the screen is too bright, but we're going to give that a go. I'm going to see if I can actually use the webcam here to see the screen. Is that, can you, let's see here. It doesn't really show up. But anyhow, I've got the loop length and the loop, I've got the loops, you know, switch. I've got that on, and I've got the measure set to 8 bars. And sync mode is on. And that is the exact same setting on every single track. So I'm a little bit confused as to why it doesn't seem to want to do that. Like I said, my first issue with the SP505 was that I couldn't really get it to sync with the rest of the gear very well. If I'm not using the ERM multi-clock, external clock, yeah, it really doesn't want to sync. And it falls out of time very quickly. I think the main way that it's meant to be used, you know, is from a beatboxer who's doing everything really not according to like a BPM, but using the SP505 as the master tempo. But I'm not a beatboxer, and I don't want to use the 505 as the master device. I just want it to be in sync with everything else. I just want to hit a button, have it record for 8 bars, and then play that, you know, back until I interact with it again. What let's do now is I'm going to turn the sync like off, so that I would need to hit the button before the downbeat of the measure I want it to start recording on, and then I would need to hit it again in the measure before I want it to stop recording. And let's see if I can get that going. It's not near as convenient as pressing once and then just walking away and having it auto loop, which in a live situation is really, you know, something that would be beneficial. So I've set track 1 now to not sync automatically to that 8 bars. And we're going to count this out again. And let's see if I can get this to sync to the 8 bars, okay? So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. 2. Press it now. 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 6, 2, 3, 4, 7, 2, 3, 4, and 8. Let's stop and turn around. Okay, so doing it manually, it seems to work as expected. The problem, though, is that I really shouldn't have to do it manually when it has the built-in feature to record to a distinctive time, you know, and I'm using a really expensive, you know, master clock sequencer to get all this going. But now, you know, I can start and stop this loop with the mix, and it kind of just fades away, right? So I can just start scrolling for some other presets. I like the way this sounds. This is pretty cool. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, we're gonna leave track 2 set to that initial sync mode of recording for 8 bars. And I'm going to try to just record the arpeggio into the 505. We're going to wait for that crash, and we're going to count it out so that everything is on the beat, and you can see that or hear that. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and 7, 2, 3, 4, 8. Let's loop it now. So I'm playing the arp. 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 6, 2, 3, 4, 7, 2, 3, 4, 8, 2. Come on, do it. And that time it was absolutely dead on perfect. So we've got 2 loops now in the 505, and I can start that other loop back up if I want to. And 1, 2, 3, 4. So now we've got that pad hit on the first track. We've got a little bit of an arpeggio on the second track, right? But here's the thing though, is that, you know, I would really like, ultimately, it would be awesome if I could just press that, you know, recording button one time and have it do what it's supposed to do. Record for that 8 bars and then just shut off and loop. But you guys saw that it's really not doing that with track 1, and I just have no idea why. It's sort of intermittent on whether it, you know, is going to do it. So I haven't really been using the 505 so far. I'm not actually 100% sure if I'm going to be keeping it because, again, my workflow isn't like a beatboxing workflow. So I'm never going to be using this as like the main clock. I just need it to sync to other devices. But it is a really awesome looper, and once you get the loops in there, you know, you're good to go. Let's see if we can find another sound that might sound cool over this. Turn this break beat back on. So I'll stop these loops now, 2, 3, and they just kind of fade out, right? You could have them stop immediately if you want to, but I like them to kind of fade out gently. Just gonna kind of mess around here. See if we can't maybe find another preset here in the MiniFreak that we'd like to use. Ooh. There we have that lead that I just played now. Again, you saw that I didn't have to press stop, right? That's sort of the dream. If it would just work. I mean, that's sort of the dream, you know. If it would just sort of work consistently like that all the time, then this would be like the most welcome addition to my workflow yet. But the fact that sometimes it doesn't, you know, do that, I suppose I could, you know, try to get it into my workflow to always, you know, press the button, measure before I want it to start, and then always press it again on that measure before I want it to end. But sometimes, you know, if you're playing a lead or something and I'm using both hands, I might, you know, or maybe be stretched somewhere or whatever. It's not necessarily always easy to get back to that, you know, button again. If anyone is having those same type of issues with their 505, please do let me know in the comments how you dealt with that. Did you just, you know, end up going with the turn it on and off manually thing? Are you risking it in a live situation, hoping that it will, you know, do the full 8 bars, but sometimes it doesn't, and you just work with that? I'd really like to hear some other people's advice and opinions on that. Another thing is that every time I start it up again, it starts playing all of the loops. It doesn't leave them muted if they're already muted. I've just now cleared out all of those loops by accident, but that's fine because we're just messing around today. Ooh, that sounds cool. Let's get that in there. 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 6, 2, 3, 4, 7, 2, 3, 4. I'm doing it manually. 3, 4. Okay, so that time it didn't sync up either. And I find that, whoops. And I find that like really odd because I did that completely manually and in time. So let's just, let's see here. Track 1. I've got the loop sync off. Let's try that one more time, and I'm going to just keep counting it out here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 6, 2, 3, 4, 7, 2, 3, 4, 8. Let's hit the button and go. 2, 3, 4. There's 5, 6, 2, 3, 4, 7, 2, 3, 4, 8, 2. I'll hit the button. Okay, now it's perfectly in sync, but I didn't do anything differently than I did just a moment ago, I feel. So we've got an ARP here. I'm gonna go back and get that pad. 2, 3, 4. Something playing strangely on that first one. 3, okay, now we've got the pad, but the first loop is out of sync. So that absolutely must be a weird thing that I have got going on. I've got it set to 8 measures, but I had the sync mode off, so then it wasn't syncing with the clock super great. That's really weird. Let's go back to that arpeggio. All right. Let's see if there's any comments in the chat. What's happening, JC? All right. Yeah, right. Big John is this literally saying what I'm saying. A looper that can't sync sounds like more trouble than it's worth. I couldn't agree more. It's really not. I was really just, I mean, I'm only asking for what I feel is the most simple requirement ever. I'm not trying to use a whole bunch of internal effects. I'm not trying to route a bunch of stuff into it. I'm not trying to route a bunch of individual outputs from it. I'm just trying to do the most basic thing that there is. But I really feel like because it's not the main MIDI clock, that's what's causing all of these problems. But I can't really honestly understand why, because it's in perfect sync, you know, with everything else. And we're sitting here counting it out, and I just can't really understand, like, why it sometimes works and sometimes doesn't work. Which, I mean, how am I supposed to get that to be a part of my workflow, right? So the pad is looping an 8-bar loop just fine. I'm going to try this ARP again on track 3 instead of track 1. 2, 3, 4, 8, 2, and here we go. Okay, so now I'm trying to record the ARP onto track 3, and it's set to just automatically turn off and start looping after 8 bars. 2, 3, 4, and 8, 2, 3, 4, and it worked absolutely perfectly. So why don't they all work that way and consistently, right? All right. So I can then, you know, if I'm jamming, you know, I can turn those off, which is great. Let's say I want to find something else to add now, right? I like that. 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2. It's set automatically 5 and 6 and 7 and 8. It should shut off and start going back, and it did. So now that is playing back in time, and I can get the other things playing back in time. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we've got all 3 of those tracks looping together, right? So I could then, you know, focus on other stuff, turning off drums, whatever, right? And I could stop those, let them kind of fade out a little bit if I wanted to. Maybe look for another sound. Maybe too mellow for techno. Let's see, here's another pad sound. 2, mellow, maybe. Well, that's kind of a cool breakbeat sound. Let's go with that. I'm going to try to live loop that in here. Waiting for the riser to come back around. And go. Now it should loop, right? So this is why it's been a little bit of a frustration so far, is that sometimes it works exactly as expected and other times not so much. And I can, you know, turn that off if I want, come over here and mess with the bass line. Off some stuff, maybe add the ride cymbal. So we've got 4 tracks now with content on them in the looper, and I can, you know, bring these in and out whenever I want when it's working correctly. Let's do that. I can add some percussion. More percussion. You can add this clap. You can now switch up the loops that are playing, right? Now I've stopped 2 of the loops and started another 2 of the loops here. Off some percussion, let this groove a little bit. Maybe look for another sound to play. Cool, there's another sound. You see if I've got track 1 set up to automatically stop or not. And then now track 1 just behaved exactly as it was supposed to. So I don't know if you guys, you know, were able to see that just then, or if you've been around for, you know, 15, 20 minutes seeing all the issues that I've had, you know, specifically with some of the individual tracks. But just there, you know, track 1 is working exactly as expected. And so far, this is sort of the experience that I've had with the 505, in that sometimes it sort of works as expected, and it's great and awesome, and then sometimes it doesn't. And I'm left sitting here going, like, huh? What I can do now that there are, you know, 5 tracks and they each have some melodic content there, is that if I want to start the groove again, it will just start all 5 tracks playing by default. I kind of wish it didn't do that. I wish it would just keep it not playing and you could start them manually, but that sort of is what it is. Let me take a moment and explain a little bit about the setup on this side and where I'm getting some of these sounds from. Hey, what's happening, Ives? Thanks for tuning in. We got Panda Cat in the chat. We got Moby Pixel in the chat. What's happening, buddy? All right, thanks for tuning in, everyone. Just a super casual stream today. We got JC, who I know has got the 505, saying he's had some random issues. He checked the firmware. His is a MK1, though. I'm not sure whether he's saying he uses the automatic length on or off. JC, do you use the automatic length control, so where you just press record one time and then it automatically starts looping back, or do you press it that second time to stop the loop and start it playing back? Let me know in the chat, please. All right. So let's talk about this actual groove here for a moment, just for fun. This is just a synth geek stream. We're just hanging out, you know. Okay. So I've mentioned already that there's kind of a wash of reverb happening in the background at all times, and the reason that that's happening. Let's see here. Cool. The reason that that's happening is I've got a reverb module, a really special reverb module here. I've actually done a video just on this reverb module. This is the Noise Engineering Desmoda's Versio reverb, and it has a lot of CV input points so that I can send control voltage information into it to modulate some of the sounds in there. I can send like really slow LFOs in there to mess with the tone of the sound, or how much the reverb is regenerating over itself. So it's always kind of moving and becomes kind of an alive part of the mix. The Desmoda's Versio, I really like that. What we're hearing in the background now is we're hearing a kick drum. Okay, I can turn that off. And now what we're hearing is we're hearing a tom sound. Excuse me. This is coming from the Erica Synths toms module. We're also hearing that sort of pumping riser in the background and a crash sound. Some really default effects that I've got loaded into the Erica Synths sample drum over here in the Eurorack. So every 16 bars, we get a little bit of a riser sound into a crash sound, just to kind of help me, sort of stay on the grid. Wait for it. Okay. So that way I can, when that crash comes in, like, that's kind of like my one on the downbeat, okay? I've got a kick drum coming from the Noise Engineering Basimilus Iteris Alter, or the BIA for short. They actually just announced yesterday that they're discontinuing this module because the chip inside of it is at the end of life, so they can't get that chip anymore. But having that little riser and that crash helps me stay on the grid. And so that every, 8 or 16 bars, I can kind of turn something else on or off. What I'm doing to turn things on and off is I really like to use these modules from DivKid, which are just called mutes, okay? And basically let me see if I can show you another one in the light. Is there one in the light? Can I reach over here? Okay, can I show that? This is basically just 4 switches, 4 big metal switches here on the left, and I can route 4 different signals into here and then just turn them on or off using these 4 switches. And I have a bunch of these modules. I have one over here that I can turn on some percussion with, right? I have another one on the top row here that I can turn on more percussion with. And then down here on the bottom left, which you probably can't see too well, I have the kick drum on one, the open hi-hat on one, that clap on one, and the ride cymbal on one. So basically all over my kit are these DivKit mute modules that allow me to turn tracks on and off in real time. So when I'm jamming, I'm always counting in my head, right? And so I know, when an 8-bar section has passed or when a 16-bar section has passed, and I'm able to, hopefully turn things on and off in time. We're at a breakbeat now from the Yamaha SU700. And I'll go ahead and add something from the 505 back in now. And something else from the 505. Now if I want to add the bass back in, I can just add the bass back in. I've got 4 different breakbeats in the SU700, so I can change that up, kind of the vibe that's coming out, right? Again, if you can count this kind of stuff in your head, and you can hit those changes at like 8 bars, or 16 bars, like right when that crash impact is happening, it really makes the transitions feel a little smoother. We'll change the breakbeat here. I'll turn some percussion on. 8 and 3, 4, 3, 2, 4, 2. I'll mix it up here. 3, 4. Change the breakbeat and then change the synth sounds over here. It's a really powerful setup. If I had like some favorite presets in Arturia MiniFreak, I could be, going through and picking out the next preset to start live looping, So change up what's playing on the 505 there. I can start taking out some percussion here. Let's take out some more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. I'm gonna break it down some more. And 3, 2, 3, and 1, 2. Here comes the change up. 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, and here we go. So as long as I just keep counting and stay on the grid, I can keep bringing things in and out, right? But okay, but the really cool thing here is that, so we've got a little freedom, right? I could, delete any of these loops that we've recorded. There's the one. And I could keep playing new parts in, or just exploring the presets in the MiniFreak and having a good time and finding sounds that go together and jamming, right? But, that bass line is going to get pretty stale if it just keeps rocking away in the background and not changing up, right? So I've gone through so many different sequencers and ways to create melodic parts, and I've fallen in love with this new sequencer. This is the Precision Disruptor, and it's from Anti-Culture, and it allows me to set the amount of notes that I'd like to have in a 1 bar, in a measure, and it allows me to set the amount of accents I'd like to have and the amount of slides that I would like to have, and it sticks all of that into key, so it's always going to be in key. We're writing in the key of F minor right now, so that I can, match the Eurorack stuff to the Western scale and add, more melodic content. I can mess with the, the cutoff and the accents of this module. It's triggering the Erica Synths bassline module, but it's just playing that same pattern, right? But that's the beauty part, is that it has a built-in randomizer that will just spit out a new pattern based on the settings that I've got. So based on my settings of how many notes per measure, how many accents per measure, and how many slides per measure, and it will randomize keeping those settings intact. So on the downbeat, if I randomize it, it just spits out a brand new bass line for me to work with. So the bass line just keeps evolving as long as I keep evolving it. We could bring some parts in. Start bringing in some more percussion. 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got my master volume down. Fix that. Sorry about that. From the SU700. Hey, we got Nils in the chat. Thanks for tuning in. I turned it down a little so I wouldn't have to yell over the mix. But I've also got, not only can I turn on and off, literally individually, all of the drum sounds in the mix, because I think that's really important, you know, to be able to ebb and flow and build up your grooves and stuff. But I can also high-pass filter the kick drum. I've got it running through a carbon filter from WM Devices. And let me turn this volume back up and show you kind of what that sounds like. I've got the low frequencies being shaved off of all 4 drum loops that are coming out of the Yamaha SU700 so that I can really not clash with the low frequencies that are coming out of the kick drum here, again, from the Noise Engineering BIA kick module. But take a listen to this. I can high-pass filter that kick right out. It sounds really nice. For transitions, right? And I can drop it back down on the downbeat. So we could like, you can also use that sort of high pass to do a whole section. I can remove the low of the kick and kind of ride and sort of build that tension a little bit. You can drop it back down. 2, 3, and. Something like filter the drum loops down. Okay, so I've cleared out track 5. Let's find something else we can put there. I can't stress this enough. If you have experience with the Arturia MiniFreak, it really has a lot of great pad and sort of texture, atmosphere presets just ready to go. Lots and lots of really cool pads and keys. You know, there's a lot we could do with something like this, especially if we ran it through a lot of reverb or used, you know, some of the built-in effects in the 505. Again, I haven't really gotten that far in it yet because I'm currently just, you know, trying to get it to sync as expected. Let's just mess around a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and clear out all of the tracks here. Just zero out everything, delete everything we've recorded into the 505 here. And let's go ahead and just, you know, start jamming a little bit and recording a few, you know, new sounds from the MiniFreak into the 505. Whoops, I didn't press the right, I pressed the stop button rather, so it continued from from the pause mode rather than resetting it with the play button. Sorry about that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, yep. 4, 2, 3, let's go. Perfect. So we've got kind of a neat little pad in the background now. Oh, that's pretty cool. Two, 3, and 1, 2, let's go. Alright, we are in. So I could turn those down a little, start messing with stuff over here. lot of keys and pads. A lot of keys and pads. Maybe not the best techno, synth we've got here. That's cool. So it should automatically shut off and start looping back for us. And it did. Nice if I knew how to filter that down, once it was in 505. I haven't gotten that far with it yet. like that. Let's get that in there. And 1, 2. It should just go on its own. 3, 4, 2. And 3. I'm not even doing anything, right? 4. And 5, 6, 7, and 8. Let's go. Got track 1 working as expected. I can't stress this enough. If it could always just work as expected, we'd be in, you know? Because it's really easy to work with, especially if I knew, you know, like what presets I wanted to use. Like if I had gone through and picked out, let's say, you know, 5 or 6 sounds. These sounds go really good with my jam. I'm going to use these sounds, you know what I mean? When it works as expected, it's literally like a magical piece of gear. One more thing that I can do is I've got another percussion sound that I sort of have playing throughout the entire jam, sort of like the tom sound, just always playing in the background to kind of, you know, help that rhythm. I started off as a drummer as my first instrument, so I'm really heavy like with the rhythmic content, if you guys haven't noticed. So with this here, whoops, I did that wrong thing again. There we go. So I can also sort of just at any time, I can just kind of lean over and start filtering up another drum sound. So I find that, you know, when I tuck things away and have lots of things that I can turn on and off, right? Give the mix a little bit more legs that way. Let's bring some more percussion. Bring some of these loops back. Hey, what's happening, Inky? What's happening, Tony? What's happening, Ed Random? happening, Chris said? We've got a question in the chat. What is the box to the left of the MiniFreak? This is a vintage Yamaha SU700. It's a sampler from 1996, and it's a really special sampler. It's really outdated and junky by today's standards, but in 1996 it was an absolute game changer. I was working at the time with a really big home studio, and a friend and I were bandmates and roommating together, and we had, excuse me, 17 pieces of hardware at the time, being controlled by a vintage Roland MC50 hardware sequencer. And the hardware sequencer was so limited that we could basically get like 8 tracks of like 4-bar or 8-bar loops going, and then just sort of mute them on and off. We couldn't really do much more than that with the gear. And at that time, we had stuff like, like synthesizers, like, junky old synthesizers and romplers and stuff. Had some Electribes and stuff, but no main, like, centerpiece, really, of that studio. It was just that sequencer, the Roland MC505 MKII or whatever. MC50, excuse me, I'm overdoing the 505 there. But this changed the game back then. And what it is it is 4 banks of these pads here, okay? And you've got some loop pads where you can assign some loops to, and it will stretch these loops to tempo. Then you've got some composed loop pads, which means that you can compose some loops with some samples. So you can put like your own kick drum on a pad, your own snare drum on a pad, right? So you could have loops on these 2 pads, but individual sounds on these 4 pads. And then you've got another set of 4 pads, which are free pads, which you can assign samples to, and then you can play those samples in real time. And you've got 4 banks, so each bank 1, has different sounds on those pads. Bank 2 has different sounds on those pads. But the thing that really cripples this unit is that it's basically, you can basically just get like your 8-bar sequence going, and that's it. There's no, there's not really patterns. There's a way that, you could kind of like use these scene modes in it. But if you tried to, like, with different mute states and stuff, to try to get some sort of, like, arrangement happening, but if you would use those mute states, it would put an audible hiccup into the mix. So basically what you could do is you could get like, 8, 10, 12 tracks and some, samples or whatnot. You could record like all of the gear in your studio into a box like this, and then just kind of turn the tracks on and off in real time and interact with them in real time. The real benefit to a box like this is that every single pad has its own EQ settings per channel, so you can actually start mixing in the box for the first time, and then it will remember those settings. I don't know if you guys are familiar with like the differences between using a hardware studio and between, using like a DAW like Ableton or something. But with Ableton, you could have 20 tracks going on at the same time, and you just load it up and it's going to remember all your settings, all that kind of stuff. But with hardware, especially with no, like, main thing holding all the information, every single knob is going to have to be adjusted, for that track. So something like this, where we could literally record the individual pieces of hardware into one box, and then have that be something we could turn on, let's say a week or 2 from now, and then work on it again, and not have the entire studio, every cable in the studio and every knob in the studio being, assigned to the task at hand. This really changed the game. And I used it a lot in the 90s, to the fact where I wore out my original one completely. The knobs on these have a tendency to wear out and get that knob jitter after about 5 or 10 years. I eventually got rid of my first one, but nostalgia creeped back in, and I just, I found this one on YouTube, and it was, eBay, YouTube, and it was fully expanded. It has like the 64 gig RAM upgrade, the extra outputs or whatever. You've got a bunch of extra outputs if you want to assign multiple things. You've even got an optical in and an optical out on this, which is like, what device has that, right? So you could take, back in the 90s, right, you could take, if you had a standalone CD burner, which I did, those have an optical input. So you could take the optical output connection from this, which is just a beam of light through some glass, right? It's like an optical cable, like no noise coming through there, no hiss, no nothing, no analog cable noise, no, it's just light through glass, right? You could plug that cable directly into your CD burner and like record the output of this directly onto a CD. I also had a mini disc recorder back at that time, which had an optical input, so you could take the output from this and record it directly onto mini disc and just get really, compared to what we were getting at the time, which was like, you know, tape heavy, hissy nonsense kind of mixing. This really changed the game, and I have just an immense passion for it. Even now, it's really dated, and you really can't do much with it. It only loads, you know, 16-bit samples. You can either sample into it, or you can load the samples in via floppy disk. And if you've ever worked with the floppy disk, it takes like 20 minutes, you know, and oftentimes the disk will go bad during the process, and you've got to, you know, do all that stupid technical solving. But yeah, it's a really fun box. You can adjust the effects per channel. You can filter per channel. You can EQ per channel, and all in real time. So, I mean, imagine just every track in your studio if you instantly had a filter on every single track in the studio. That's basically like what it sort of, you know, gives you. So even though you're not doing a lot of different patterns and stuff, you can really do a lot of sonic shaping with this box. I don't recommend, you know, going out and trying to pick this up today. It was just kind of like a, you know, love of the heart that made me pick up another one of these. And when I did get this one, the knobs were in fact completely worn out and unusable, just complete knob jitter, just like my original one. And I had to take it into the shop and have all of the knobs completely replaced to get it, you know, even usable at all again. It's just a beast, you know, and it weighs a ton and takes up a bunch of room on the table. And you could, you know, just use a Digitact or anything smaller, an iPad, I mean, anything. But it's really tactile and kind of fun to mess with. And again, you know, just the fact that you can filter everything or EQ everything or start adding, you know, delay and reverb and stuff in real time. It's really fun for sonic shaping while you are, you know, jamming and stuff. All right. I'm going to check the chat and see if there's any more questions. I'm definitely willing to answer any questions that anybody may have, whether they be about, you know, Eurorack stuff or sampler stuff or synthy stuff or looper stuff or camera and live stream stuff. So if you've got questions, now would be a great time because I don't really have this set up to, like, you know, jam for hours or anything like that. And we're going to start, you know, getting ready to wrap up the stream because I've pretty much done what I set out to do today, which is kind of like explain how I'm hoping to be using the SP505 MKII and to show, you know, some of those strange anomalies that I've been having with it. See if maybe somebody in the comments, you know, while watching this has some, you know, answers for me there, so I can maybe get this a little bit more, you know, like in on my workflow. I would actually, that's a great comparison to the SP404 because you can do like some resampling in this as well. It's really, back in the day, it was like, whoo, it was like, it was an amazing machine. And you can still resample and do all that stuff. It's just, you know, I do have the SP404 MK2 and that can do like so much more than what this can do. If somebody like needed an immediate sampler, like the SP404 would, you know, run laps around this guy. What's happening, Wayne? All right. Yeah, I'm going to be 50. I'm going to be 50 in October. Wayne says I look really young to be talking about gear in the 90s. I'm definitely cursed with that, you know, blessing and a curse, maybe that baby face. But yeah, I'm going to be 50 in October. I'm hoping to do maybe some sort of live stream for that. I don't really know what, but you know, maybe something, you know, ooh, 50, I don't know. Um, let's see. Did you have the RC505 MKII? No, this is my first experience with a looper. You know, when it works so amazingly. You know, press record, play something for 8 bars, and then have it start looping back until I tell it otherwise. That's like a magical combination that allows me to just, you know, jam endlessly in here. That's sort of what I've been trying to create is workflows that will allow me to jam longer with less setup. Because, you know, if you guys are familiar with my channel at all, you know that I pretty much change it up for every single session in here, and it usually takes me like 2 to 3 days to put together a live jam. Like day one to kind of like break down whatever gear is here, decide what I'd like to use, and start getting that out and bringing that over and getting that set up and getting a little bit of levels going. Then usually day two is where I'll write the majority of the stuff. Then day three is usually where I'll kind of like wrap up any loose ends and then film the session or whatnot. And so my whole goal in here has been to try to, you know, get my tools into a workflow that will allow me to, once I have things, you know, set up, that it will allow me to jam for longer and without having to like write all of the actual patterns from scratch beforehand. So, you know, live looping with maybe some sounds. If I go through and pick out, you know, my favorite sounds, you know, it might be easier to, you know, to do the live looping because I'll know where to go. It won't just be sort of plinking away. But I explained already that how I've got the baseline set up through that precision disruptor sequencer that allows me to keep randomizing that. So I'm not like randomizing the melodic elements, but I'm able to keep changing those up and adding new melodic elements while I'm randomizing the bass and then just kind of turning the drums on and off. That's sort of my workflow at this time. And the 505 would really be great if I can just get it to be consistent and always work. Hey, what's happening, Paul? Thanks for tuning in. Hey, what's happening, Wall? Thanks for tuning in. Wayne asks, "What's the best?" Wayne says, "What's the best mixer for me to get as I put my looper through my guitar amp, but need better sound?" Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, mixers are really just about how many inputs you need, and it's kind of said with mixers to always go with a mixer that has a few more inputs than you think you're going to need because they do go quickly. I have a really big mixer down here, like a 22 channel mixer, which is the Soundcraft MTK Signature model or whatever, but I don't actually really like this mixer very much. It's supposed to be an individual channels over USB mixer, meaning I'm supposed to be able to plug this into Ableton, and then anything I route in the mixer, I can get an individual channel into Ableton with. Now, it does that, but it has some issues that come along with that, I've found. One is that the volume that comes out of this mixer into the computer is very low. Like very low. Like people, when I was teching out this issue, people would say things, well, just turn the gain up, you know. Well, that obviously will bring your noise floor up as well. And you can obviously bring your gain up once you've recorded stuff inside of the computer, but it's kind of odd. And everybody has that issue with this mixer at some point where they're like, why is the level that I'm recording in to the computer so low? You would expect it to look a little hotter, you know what I mean, for such an expensive mixer. The other thing about this mixer, again, this is the Soundcraft MTK Multi-Track Signature 22 channel, and I really don't recommend this. it's kind of why it lives down here actually and not sort of out, like getting used in a more robust way, is that when you connect it to the computer, and you can even connect it to the iPad, it's a class compliant mixer. You can get multi-track audio to the iPad. It's still low, the volumes are, I tested. But the thing is that if you're mixing in real time, like, okay, I'm over here, I'm mixing, right? I'm bringing levels in and out, right? I'm turning things on and off. Well, obviously, you would want every single thing you're doing and touching to be recorded into the computer. Well, unfortunately, this mixer and pretty much 90% of USB multi-track mixers are pre-fader mixers. Now, what the hell does that mean? That means that the signal that's coming out of USB on this mixer does not take into account the fader levels. So if I'm recording and I'm fading tracks in and fading tracks out, the mixer doesn't care. It's sending that level through the whole time. If I adjust the EQ, that's not getting recorded. If I adjust the effects and stuff, that's not getting recorded. It's just the raw, clean signal. So, like, you lose all of, if you're interacting with the mixer in real time, you lose all of that when you're trying to multi-track record it, and you're getting a low level and a high noise floor. So that didn't really do it for me at all, and I just use this mixer now as just a standard mixer. What I'm using to mix and to actually record the audio in here these days is the 1010 Bluebox mixer. It's just a little portable mixer, and it has 6 inputs in the back that are stereo TRS. Let me actually, I probably can't get enough light on this over here, but let me just try. It's this guy right here, and I've actually done a video on where I was exploring this for the first time. It was like another live stream, maybe a couple years ago. But this is one of the things that I've just continuously gotten a lot of really good use out of. It is a mixer and a recorder. It has, you can get up to 12 mono channels or 6 stereo channels, or any combination of the above. It has a built-in delay, it has a built-in reverb that you can use as effects sends, and it has a built-in EQ as well to every single one of those channels. Like, it's a 4-band visual EQ, so I can cut the low frequencies off of some things when I'm mixing. I can mix all the signals together, and then I can record those tracks individually inside of the Bluebox. And then I can, so basically I'm recording stems in here is how I've been doing it recently. And then once the recording is done, I'll just export those stems, load them up into Ableton, do a little bit of a, a mix down per se inside of Ableton, and I'm good to go. I really have been getting a lot of use out of this Bluebox mixer and recorder. I actually have gone kind of back and forth about whether I should pick up a second one of those, because I just, use it all the time. I just, will route everything into there. The fact that, you've got individual EQ per channel, and it's just super, super easy to record either the master channel or the tracks individually as stems. I really like that mixer. I love talking about gear and stuff. If you guys, haven't noticed, so feel free to ask any questions about, gear or anything like that. I'll hang around to answer questions and stuff. Tascam model mixers are pre-fader too, Chris Head says. Yeah, I mean, I don't, I can't really see how that could be super beneficial to my workflow per se, because I want to interact with the mixer and have it record all of that. I even have an Allen and Heath DJ mixer, and it does the exact same thing. And that really makes no sense to me, because a DJ you think is going to be just working those faders all over the place, and it doesn't record any of that. It just records, pre-fader, so it just full volume is what it records. How is that useful? I don't really follow that. Not a solution for most, Wall says, but in modular, he bounces several 4-channel mixers down to a single 2-channel output and then route that through a Zoom U24. I do that same thing as well. I have tons of like what I would consider sub mixers in here. Like I'm running a stereo Sir Mix-a-Lot mixer here, which is a 6-channel mixer with effects sends and returns. I've got another Sir Mix-a-Lot there. I've got a small 4-channel mixer here. I've got another 5-channel mixer here. My main and favorite mixer in the Eurorack is made by Cat Off, and it's I don't think they are available anymore because they were a Russian company, and all sorts of weirdness there now. Thanks a lot, everybody. But this is just a fantastic mixer in that it really works like a hardware mixer. It has gain on it, and I can really send hot, fat levels through it. But yeah, so I mean, I'm sub-mixing everything, and then those things are coming, like I'll mix 2 percussion sounds together, you know, and then route that mixer into one of the inputs on the Bluebox as well. All of that, yep, absolutely. Cresshead is down with the Roland MX1. He'd like to see an MX2. You know, I've heard a lot of mixed like reviews per se, opinions about those Roland MX mixers. Some people really love them and like love the built-in scatter effects that they have in them for using, especially it's supposed to be really great for like breakbeat, maybe not as great for techno. I don't really know because I haven't experienced that. But I do have some friends who have those who really don't care for them that much, who say there's a lot of noise that comes through those MX mixers. So that's something to think about as well. Again, I can't really speak to that because I don't have one. I think some of that noise might be related to people trying to run audio through USB on those mixers. Again, I'm not really sure. Wayne says, what music do you make up? Everything, really. I mean, I do everything in here from down tempo and ambient to drum and bass. You know, I think my favorite stuff to do is probably, you know, drum and bass or anything with like 4 on the floor. But I mean, I really love the, you know, the broken beat stuff too. That's why I just try to do it all. I don't really claim, you know, any specific workflow because I really like all the workflows. I just like to play with the toys, you know. Yeah, very steep curve. I've been at this. This is, you know, as a sound designer for a living, this is really what I do with my time. I don't really have a lot of other hobbies and stuff. And even I feel like there's not enough hours in the day. I mean, there's so much to learn. And I've been doing this for like 30 years, basically, with like everything I have, you know. All right, well, I'm just going to jam for just a couple more minutes. I'm going to let you guys, you know, say goodbye to each other in the chat. I really appreciate those of you, you know, who are hanging around. This is just a fun stream. We're just, you know, hanging out as like synth friends, you know. I'd like to do some more of these casual streams where we're just hanging out and chatting. It's a lot of work to get set up and a lot of lights and stuff, so I can't always do this kind of stuff. But feel free to ask any more questions in the chat. Feel free to, you know, say goodbye to each other in the chat. I'm going to jam for a few more minutes, and if there's any more questions, I'll answer those as well. And then I think we're probably going to wrap it up today. Let's go. Hard to mix on headphones. Russ. Wait. What is this? What is this here? Congratulations on the hardware jam win. Did I win the hardware jams challenge this week? Are you kidding me? How cool is that? What? Really? Is that a thing? That's cool. All right. Hey, all right. Cool. Thanks for the votes, everyone. All right. What? Right on. Well, I think we're probably going to end it on that positive note today then. It looks like my jam for last weekend might have won the hardware jams challenge this last week. All right, with my hard minimal. This is what we're remixing. This is a remix of that jam, actually. If I just I'm controlling the drums with a Euclidean circles Eurorack module here, and if I literally just adjust a couple of things, we end up going back to a 4 on the floor. So here's sort of what it sounded like as a 4 on the floor, right? And I can... Thanks, Ives. Thanks, Nils. All right, what's up with that? How cool is that? Find out on the live stream. Cool. So I can turn this beats per minute up, right? And here's sort of where that the delay is off here. It's set for a slower. But so I had taken this, slowed it down from 152 to 128, and then just added some more kick drums. Then we got some break beats. So I could still kind of use those majority of the drums, you know, for the from the other jam, without having to repatch all these cables. Still have the vocal samples down here.
We're losing control.
The vocal samples are being played from... Whoop. The vocal samples are... Let me mute that here. The vocal samples are being played from a little arcade button trigger module.
Rave all night, sleep all day. Rave all night, sleep all day. Rave all night, sleep all day.
We're losing control.
Hey.
So, I mean, they're just like those old, you know, Street Fighter arcade machine buttons.
We're losing control.
Anyway, you can really go crazy there, and that's pretty fun. I really like that for triggering the vocal samples. Anyhow, all right, we are going to go ahead and wrap it up. I'm not going to just go on and on and on forever. I really appreciate those of you who have tuned in today. Hey, what's happening, Lo? Good to see you. All right. Good deal. All right, I'm always lousy at wrapping these up, so I'm going to go ahead and just say, you know, adieu. Thanks very much. Oh, wait, real quick, just a piece of news for those of you who are still with me. I just want to announce that I'm going to be hosting another electric showcase special on the last Saturday of September. So just before we go into like, you know, Halloween and Thanksgiving and Christmas and all your family obligations and all that nonsense, right at the end of September, we're going to have a really awesome live stream on a Saturday at like noon, where I'm going to play, you know, tons of artists from around the world. We're going to be giving away more prizes this time. If you haven't caught one of my electric showcase live streams, you're definitely going to want to tune into this one. I've got a great set of artists that I'm going to be bringing and presenting, and we're going to be giving away a Roland J6 chord synthesizer that I picked up to give away for this, and maybe, just maybe, a Eurorack module or two, if I can make that happen. I don't really have sponsors for these, just my pocket sponsor. So we'll see, how things go over the next couple of weeks. We might have some more prizes as well. But definitely one brand new Roland J6 chord synthesizer we will be giving away on that electric showcase live stream. So you're definitely going to want to tune in for that. Again, the last Saturday of September. Free prizes, cool, alive music. All right. Yes, this is a 505 Looper. We were kind of exploring it today. I've been having some anomalies getting it to sync up with the rest of these gear. It sort of works maybe like 8 out of 10 times as expected, but those other 2 times when it doesn't, it's kind of odd. And I haven't really been able to get it like to where I can 100% like count and rely that it's going to do like the same thing every single time. You know what I mean? But you know, when it works, I love it, and I want to love it, and I want it to be a part of my workflow. If anyone has those same kind of anomalies and has any way that they, you know, worked around them so that it just always works as expected, just drop me a comment, you know, down below in the comment section. All right. Yes, last time we did, Russ mentions that last time I gave away a vintage Roland TR505 drum machine on the live stream. That was a really fun live stream with some amazing performances as well. I cannot wait for the next one. So yeah, the last Saturday of September, you guys, please tune in for that. Hey, what's happening? Half God, half beast. All right, you just missed the stream. I'm sorry, guys. I don't have like a a bunch of stuff today to make it a really long one. I just wanted to kind of show what I've been up to, and show how I've been trying to use the 505 and get that synced up with some of the rest of the gear. All right, guys, we are going to go ahead and end the stream. Thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. And until next time, take care of each other. Thanks for watching.